Hello, friends of Earth. It's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. Tonight we're going to talk about real estate. What? Real estate? I know that most of my clients nowadays are some kind of transformational coach, nutrition coach, life coach, business coach. I tend to work with those kinds of people. But I will forever have a connection to and an affinity for real estate because that's where I got my start at the age of 24. I was 24 years old in 2001 when I got my real estate license and sold for 6.5 years. And then I went and ran a real estate company for 5 years. And then I went and coached real estate agents for another 5 or 6 years after that, before I started moving into my marketing agency and then into what we're doing now with coaches and healers, etc. But here's, and I promise, if you're not a real estate agent, there's a lesson in this for you. But I want to draw this out for you for a second. So it's interesting. The real estate industry has evolved a ton since I got in 2001. And what hasn't evolved, or what hasn't changed, is humanity. So the industry has changed, but humanity has not changed. So technology has come and gone. I mean, technology isn't gone, but it's continuing to change. Technology changes all the time. I was just having an interview today with a friend, Keith Riddle, who is sponsoring an event that I'm speaking at next week called, the event that I'm speaking at next week is a YPN event. It's called Growth with a Purpose. And so Keith is sponsoring that. But what Keith and I were talking about was just how probably back in 2007 and 8, people were robo-posting on Craigslist. And that technology, like most people aren't robo-posting to Craigslist anymore, right? So it's interesting how technology has changed, and yet humanity is the same. So here, I need to create some context before I can tell you what I would have done differently as a real estate agent. So here's what I believe nowadays, which would impact how I market as a real estate agent. I believe we are no longer in the information age. People don't care about your listings. I mean, it's cool, it's nice, it's fine. If you take a listing, fine, post it. That's great, awesome. And people are interested in real estate. HGTV wouldn't be around as a network if people weren't actually curious and fascinated by real estate. However, real estate is not the kind of conversation you can create a conversation around. It's not an ongoing conversation. It might be a curiosity for people, but for you, the agent, the person who's trying to create a connection over here, it has to be built around something that is aspirational, not transactional. And the problem, and the whole nature of the real estate industry is that it is built around a transaction. Yes, you're listing your house or you're buying a house. That is a transaction. And so most of our marketing for decades has been around transactions. Now, as the referral gurus have come around, right? Referral teachers. I co-hosted the Referrals podcast with Michael Mayer for a long time, and that podcast is still going on. I was a Brian Buffini guy when I got started early in my career. The referral teachers came along and they were saying, hey, listen, there's a more personal way we can do this. And so for all of us in this tribe who love to make a connection with humans, and we don't care so much for the technology of it all, right? This is our wheelhouse. We're like, yeah, I get that humanity hasn't changed. Technology's changed, humanity hasn't changed. And yet, as agents, it's easy to feel like we're getting left behind. Maybe we'll get replaced by technology. And what I would say to that is, in the absence of relationship, in other words, if I were a stranger and I just moved to a city and I didn't know any agents, I might use an app or some kind of technology to find a house and then use an agent to help complete the transaction. And I would choose technology because it's convenient, because it's easy. But with relationship, I would choose relationship over technology. Why? Because a person is somebody I can trust. If you're a person and I know you, then I can trust you. So that's the backdrop of this conversation, right? Okay, now, so here's what I would do. Knowing that this is about people trusting you. Here's the deal. You can't go build your marketing around the transaction or around the real estate itself. I'm not saying you can't talk about it at all. I'm just saying it's not where connection gets built. So, by the way, more context here. the average buying cycle for real estate is like 7 to 10 years, depending on where you live in the country. 7 to 10 years. So what, are you going to talk to me transactionally for 7 years when that's not a relevant conversation for me? You can't build connection with me by you posting listings. Now, I'm not saying, again, that you shouldn't post listings. What I'm saying is that there's a very small percent of people in your sphere of influence or your friends on Facebook who at any given time are ready to buy or sell right now. And so that means there's an entire other, the majority of people who are following you, watching you, interacting with you are not in that window to buy or sell. So there has to be another conversation. There has to be another conversation that you're able to create with them so that there's connection, so that they want to follow you, they want to engage with you. Okay, now this is where I say your marketing has to be aspirational, not transactional. Okay, so that's all the backstory. Now let me tell you how I do it. So I would come in and I would start to find, I would start with who do I most enjoy? What humans on this planet do I enjoy the most? Do I get along with the most? What do they have in common? What are their values? What are their beliefs? Like all of it. How do they dress? Where do they live? All that stuff. I would try to figure out, like, because those people I will have an instant connection with. If I can say what I believe and they believe it too, we have instant connection. Now, from that place, I would start to think, okay, what has life taught me? What has life taught me? Not what did the real estate market tell me? What has life taught me in the shadows, in the depths of pain and in the hardships of life? What has life taught me that would matter to those people? Right? Like, and where are those people? So if you actually mapped the journey of humans, right? And let's use the hero's journey. So at the age of 20 or whatever, or 22, you leave college, you leave your house, and off you go into the real world. And if I were a first-time buyer and I'm down here in my 20s and 30s, the problems that they have, the aspirational message that's relevant to somebody in their 20s and 30s is a different aspirational message than somebody in their 40s or 50s. And so we start to have a different conversation that is aspirational. And so for me, I work really well with people that are somewhere between 35 and 55. In other words, they've lived enough life to know they don't know everything. They've lived enough life to be like, to not be naive about things. Like, when I was in my 20s, it was all rose-colored glasses. I was like, I'm going to make $1 million in a month kind of a thing, right? It was hilarious. And now I just know, like, for me, it doesn't work that way. And the people I serve, the people I would serve, I'm like, okay, the people that I would be reaching out to are people who, I'll just tell you, they're people who are people-oriented, not task-oriented. So they love human beings and they want to help people or inspire people. Those are the people I would want to sell a house to. Because the technical ones who are like, well, tell me how much your commission is, and they whip out the spreadsheet. Like, I can't, that won't work for me. I don't want to help them. Okay. Somebody else can help them. Or, and that's nothing against you if you like spreadsheets. Okay, cool. Good for you. And it's just too analytical for me. And then the other ones I probably won't do well with are the ones who are very bottom line oriented, steamroll, think they know more than me. Like I don't do well with them either. I don't have patience for it. But I have a huge heart for the people who want to inspire and help other people. Okay, so that's who I would serve. And they'd be somewhere between 35 and 55. They'd probably have a family because I love my family. I love the conversation of what does it take to create amazing kids in the world. Like, so they would have a family. And here's the next thing. Like, they're into personal development. The people I would want to sell a house to, or the people's house I would want to list, are into personal development. They probably read self-help books. They might like Jim Rohn. They might like Tony Robbins. They're going to be in the conversation of how do I make my life better? But here's the problem. And when you're marketing, you always have to find the challenge or the problem where people are stuck. In real estate marketing, we don't do that. We're just like, hey, I listed a house. Hey, come to my open house. We never talk about problems. And if you do talk about a problem, you're talking about a problem like, oh, interest rates are high, or the problem is, oh, we have a no inventory, and so we need those problems people don't care about because it doesn't touch their heart or their soul, especially if they're not in the window of buying or selling a house. So who cares? people 35 to 55 who want to help and inspire people that are into personal development. But the problem they're facing is that they keep trying to find the breakthrough in their life. They'd like to afford a better house, a bigger house, a nicer house, but because either there's a ceiling on them at work, if they're an employee, or if they're a business owner, they just haven't been able to break through their ceiling. And so the problem that those people face is that their life feels like a treadmill. Their life feels like a hamster wheel. They're like stuck in this thing. And they're like, I don't know. I mean, I've read 50 or 500 self-help books. And I've been to Tony Robbins twice, and I can't figure out why I'm not breaking through. And that's the problem. And that's where I would engage people in my marketing. So my marketing would start to sound like this. Listen, I wouldn't even talk about real estate. And maybe I would drop it in the conversation. I'd say, hey gang, it's Chris Angel back for another episode of My Cool Real Estate Show. Today we're talking about when life gets hard, how do you actually find a breakthrough? Like, how do you actually break through? Because I know I've read all the books, I listened to a ton of podcasts, and yet I still feel like I had been stuck for years. So where does the breakthrough live? Because I know that's what we're looking for. And then I could go down the path in my show, in my marketing, and talk about where life has taught me that the breakthroughs happen. Do you see how this is an aspirational message that meets the people I would most enjoy serving in real estate? And yet it has nothing to do with real estate. There's nothing in this conversation about it, and I don't even care that it is. Now, that I dropped real estate into the conversation is I think important, and I think it's helpful, but it's not because I am inviting you to my open house, and it's not because I just listed a property. It's because I have a heart for you that want to, and a perspective, a point of view, a POV about how you can get unstuck from where you're stuck. Now, I'm just telling you how I would do it because this is the fishbowl I swim in. Like I love personal development. I'm a huge fan of finding the breakthroughs. I'm a very spiritual person, so I'm always looking for what is life teaching me. I often say in my programs to my participants that marketing is a spiritual practice, much like meditation is a spiritual practice. Marketing is a spiritual practice if you do it this way, because this way requires that you go look at what life is teaching you so that you can reflect it back to those you're trying to serve. Can you already see how this would differentiate you as a real estate agent? That you're showing up with some kind of substance and not an open house? I think that, let's go all the way back to the beginning of this conversation. Technology has evolved, but I think humans are the same. And what we as humans want is to know, can I trust you? Are you a person of substance? Do I like you? And so if you market that way from a place of aspirational messages and you get honest with me, you get real with me, what happens is I start to connect with you while all the other agents are talking about their listings and their open houses and what they just, what buyer just closed at the escrow company. I'm sitting here talking to you about real life. So who do you think is going to have, where do you think the affinity is going to happen? Am I going to have more affinity because I'm talking about real issues in real life? Or is the person who just posted a picture of their buyer closing at escrow going to have more affinity? I win. I get more affinity because I'm being real. Now, let's take this even deeper about being real. I say this also, but we are living in an Instagram perfect world, right? Like Instagram perfect, like let's all like take our selfies and our snapshots. And I get it because I do it, but I'm not trying to do it so that I come off as perfect. I try to do it in a way that shows you where I fall. I try to do it in a way that shows you that I'm not perfect. So, and the reason is when I step out from behind my mask in my marketing, and be a real person, you, on the receiving end of my marketing, feel safe to step out from behind your mask. And now what happens is we have a very authentic exchange in this relationship. Compare that to the way it is now. What happens now is buyers and sellers come in very masked, very gated, very closed off, okay? Even in referral situations. And you come in trying to puff and posture with how much you know or what the market's doing because you want the listing or you want the, whatever the case is. And so what we have now is an inauthentic exchange from agent to client, to your very client. This isn't even the other cross sale party. This is you and your client having this masked exchange that is inauthentic. Why? Because you never dropped your mask in your marketing. You were puffing and posturing the whole time, trying to look bigger than you are so that people would take you seriously. And what actually happened was that people never felt safe with you. And so when they actually reached out to you or you reached out to them, what you got was not the whole story. And this is why people don't follow you or trust you completely. This is why you'll advise them. This is why you'll advise them in some kind of a transactional situation, like, I think you should do this on the inspection, or you should do this in a negotiation. And they're like, no, I don't think so. Because they don't feel safe with you. Because your marketing on the front end of this entire relationship wasn't you being transparent, talking about aspirational things and the things that life taught you. It was you puffing and posturing about your open house and your listing. So I've given you a lot in this. Like, I could keep going because I get fired up about this. I've spent so many years in and around the real estate industry, right? Listen, if you're an agent on this, I'm going to keep going because here's what I want you to know. I actually got so tired of the conversation of real estate that I found myself moving my work, my body of work in marketing to healers and transformational coaches because they got the life thing. They got the whole substance of humanity thing. While I would teach the real estate agents about substance and humanity, and all they wanted to know was, well, how many times do I have to do that before I get a lead? And I just outgrew that. I was like, I'm not going to spend my time here anymore. Because if you don't get humanity, if you don't understand that people buy people, if you don't understand that people are looking for safe passage to something, and your way of demonstrating that you're safe is by being transparent and not talking about your listings, if you don't get that, I'm wasting my time here. So I went to a different industry, a different vertical where people actually understood that safety and transparency was currency for trust, right? So that being said, what I would say to you as an agent is, I still think that this is the way to grow your business. This is the way to grow your business, is aspirational conversations that you're leading in the world from what life has taught you. And then real estate can be this little like back conversation in the background. It's not the foreground. It's not the aspirational thing. It's the this is what I do for a living thing. But it is not, listen to me, your life on this planet is not about selling houses. Yes? True? Your life here on this planet is not about selling houses. That might be how you make money. You might be a tent builder, a tent maker, making tents, selling tents, but it's not your purpose. And if you can agree with that, and I think most people can, if you can agree with that, then what happens, yeah, Paulie said, I just happen to do real estate. That's right, right? So here's the thing about this is, if you can agree that you're not here to sell real estate, there's a bigger thing for you to do here, then the next question becomes, what is that thing? And then once you find that thing, all there is to do is go lead that conversation in the world. And what you'll find is you can keep your real estate license, you can be a real estate agent, you might even triple your sales, who knows? But now you're going to do it from a place of meaning and purpose, not from a place of transaction. So if you're that kind of agent, you're like, I'm the kind of agent who has a message for the world. And you would like help developing that message, not because you're going to get a lead, although leads will happen. Leads are a fruit. Leads are a fruit of transformation. Leads are a fruit of aspiration. If you're the kind of agent who wants to lead a conversation in the world that is bigger than the transaction, that's aspirational, but you're having a hard time figuring out how to do that, this is exactly what I teach people to do. I have a 6-week program designed for that very thing. Humanity is humanity. People buy people, right? And it's very easy for us. Maybe you sell plumbing. Maybe I don't care. Maybe you sell swimming pools. Again, if you are the kind of human who wants to make a difference and it's not just about hustling and selling more stuff, then you have to rise above the transaction to something that's aspirational in pools, in plumbing, in whatever it is you do, because that stands out from your competition. Your competition is marketing transaction, feature, benefit, and you're talking about life and the real stuff that happens in life. And that stands out because people go, wow, you're a pool salesman of substance. You're a plumber of substance. You're somebody that I could get along with and somebody I feel safe with. Could you please come fix my plumbing? So I'll leave you with a question and then I'll say goodnight, which is, the question is, how can you start to make your business more aspirational? How can you take your marketing and make it more aspirational for people so that it deals with the real life and problems that people are facing every day and not the industry stuff that you're so preoccupied with? That's what creates change in the world. And that's why I love the conversation of transformation, because I'm all about changing the world. Thanks for hanging out with me here tonight in this episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. Until tomorrow, when we go live again, here's to you all rubbing shoulders with humanity and being safe for others to work with you. Okay, go be aspirational. See you tomorrow.